Okay, so welcome back. When we finish this unit, Unit 7, believe it or not, we will be halfway through everything we need to cover for the year. But the first thing that I need to discuss with you is that if you will take a look at your notes sheet, okay? You have a homework assignment. This part right here, this says the 5 common bonds found among people in the United States today. That is homework for you. So what I need for you to do is when you go home tonight, chat with your parents, talk with any friends that you might have intelligent conversations with on a regular basis, talk to your grandparents, find out what they feel like are the common bonds that hold us together as a nation, okay? If you're talking with your friends, what do you think are the common bonds that keep you guys together as a group of friends? Okay, so make sure you get that knocked out for your homework. Today's video is fairly short as we are only going to take a look at what life was like in Latin America prior to the nationalist revolutions that will occur. So in this unit, we'll have 3 areas where nationalism is very influential: Latin America, Italy, and Germany. So let's set the stage some. The Enlightenment ideas that inspired the American and French revolutions are also going to inspire the revolutions that occur in Latin America. So most of the population in Latin America really resent the European powers that dominated the colonies. If you take a look at this map, which is one of the Americas around the 1660s, you can see that the dark orange area represents all of the Spanish-controlled colonies. The light yellowish orangish color on the east coast of Brazil represents the area controlled by Portugal. Now, there were also other European countries that had control here as well. There were also Dutch, English, French, and Swedish colonies in the Americas. Now, when the Spanish colonized Latin America, you'll remember from Unit 3 that the conquerors came in and they destroyed the labor system and the economic system that was already in place in Latin America. Now, that plan that was put into place was called the Encomienda. Now, the Encomienda is defined as a grant of land made by Spain to a settler in the Americas, including the right to use Native Americans as laborers on it. The Spanish had claimed that it would be beneficial to all involved. However, those who were granted these encomiendas did not uphold their promise that they would treat the natives fairly and respect the workers. Instead, natives were forced into labor, many were abused, and many were worked to death, especially those who were mining. Now, these large plantations that used slave labor were called haciendas, okay? And this is what it would have looked like. Latin American society itself was highly structured. And it all has to do with where you were born or where your parents were born. Okay, now I love this picture because it gives you a visual for who was in what group exactly. At the top of Spanish American society, the most important people were the Viceroys and the Peninsulares. So if you were a Viceroy or a Peninsulare, then you were born in, or your parents were born in Spain, okay, which is on the Iberian Peninsula, hence the name Peninsulare. This was a very small percentage of the population of Latin America. Now, only Peninsulares could hold high office in Spanish colonial government. The next most important were Creoles. Creoles were Spaniards who had been born in Latin America. In other words, Mama and Daddy were both Peninsulares, and you were born in Latin America. Now, Creoles were not allowed to hold high official positions in governments, but they were allowed to rise as officers in the Spanish army. Now, these folks, the Peninsulares and the Creoles, they only made up about 22% of the total population. Next were Mestizos and Mulattos. Mestizos were persons of European and Native American ancestry. So one parent was European and the other was Native American. Mestizos made up about 7% of the population. Mulattoes were people of European and African descent, and again, represented about 7% of the total population. Enslaved Africans were included in this class as well, and they made up about 6% of the population. Now, the lowest class in Latin American society were slaves, which were mostly Native Americans. This group was at the very bottom of the social ladder, despite representing the largest amount of the population, almost right around 56%. So this was an extremely rigid class system. After all, you can't really change where you were born or where your parents were born. You can't change your ancestry. So you were in whatever class you were born into. It was determined by your birth. Okay, so that just about covers it for today. So don't forget that you need to ask the 5 common bonds found in America, what binds us together. You can talk to friends, teachers, parents, grandparents, guardians, neighbors. Find out what people think are the things that hold us together. Next class, we're going to start to look at some of the revolutions that occurred in Latin America and who were the important men behind these revolutions. So I'll see you then.